On the Trail Association, I'll tell you, I live in upstate New York. 2 days ago I left, it was 21 below zero. You have no idea how nice it is to be here today. My name is Mike Buckley, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what this trail meant to me. There's a man who walks beside me. He is who I used to be, and I wonder when she looks at him if she confuses him with me. I wonder who she's searching for on nights I'm not around. Could it be the man who did the things I'm living now? Now, Jason Isbell wrote that song several years ago, and the first time I heard it, I had to step back and sit down and I replayed it, and I realized I had became the man in that song. Now, I retired from the Army on August 1st, 2017. More than 32 years of active duty service, 6 deployments, 3 combat tours, and I realized I was somewhat lost. Well, I'll tell you, society was diametrically different than the one I had been used to. But the biggest problem was I started to have panic attacks again, and I'm going to get into why that occurred, and all those buzzwords that come with that is, you know, the depression, the anger, the rage, the apathy, the loss, disillusionment, they're all there, but I was in a little bit of trouble. But before I get to that, I've got to talk a little bit about why and how I got here. I was in Iraq in September of 2009. I was over there with y'all, and my job was basically to run a small combat base. And it's kind of like the little village I live in now of about 2,000, except everybody on the outside is trying to kill you. It made for a rather difficult year. But while I was there, I'd been notified I'd been selected for battalion command. So when I got back out of there, I came back in October of 2010. Picked up my family, wife and 2 sons, and we lived in Stuttgart, Germany, and I moved to Fort Riley, Kansas, the 1st Infantry Division, where in February I took command of the 84th Explosive Ordnance Disposal Battalion, EOD. Now, if you understand that EOD in military is the Army's bomb squad. We were notified shortly thereafter we were going to deploy, but we didn't quite know where. But shortly, and about a month later, I found out we were going to Afghanistan. A year later, in March of 2012, we picked up and we deployed to Regional Command East, which is area responsibilities 14 provinces, the vast majority of which cover they border Pakistan. And our job, in layman's terms, was simply to deny, defeat, deter, render safe, whatever you want to call it, the improvised explosive device. The device the enemy was using to basically maim and kill an enormous amount of people, coalition forces and the local populace. Well, the members of that battalion, when we were there that year, took 2,900 off the battlefield. And I tell you, it's an incredible testament to the bravery and courage of those men and women. But it came with a fairly significant cost. We took our first casualty on April 24th. It was a man he was a triple amputee, both arms above the elbow, left leg, which eventually had to go to the hip. 9 days later, I had a member of my personal staff commit suicide. I remember running to the room, and when we got there, platoon sergeant's holding him on the ground, and we're kneeling down on the floor trying to stop his life from running out on the floor, and he looks at me and he goes, "What do I do, sir?" You know, it's a difficult question to ask, and I honestly still don't quite know the answer. 9 days later, we lost another KIA. This man had to identify by a tattoo on his chest, left a pregnant wife and 3 children. June 1st, I sent another one home. Severe head trauma. July came about, well, after June, we sent 4 more home in June wounded. July, I got a call to go to the ER one more time. We had an individual in there that had been a large engagement, and we had a lot of people hurt. And it was July 7th, and that's the day things started to kind of change for me. Got there, and the nurses, I walk in and go, "Hey, sir, you want to talk to this guy?" I go, "Love to." He said, "Well, he'd been intubated. We're going to wake him up." In about 3 minutes, miraculously, he wakes up, a little bit of water. We start talking, and it's almost, you see the picture here, it's almost comical because we start laughing in a macabre way that soldiers will do about how things are messed up, and you can't believe this happened and all that. But somebody taps me on the shoulder. And I turn back around, and behind me is a man I've never met before, and he's a civilian. He worked for the Department of the Navy. He was a K-9 bomb dog handler. Hand comes up just like this picture. We're talking. The first thing he says, he goes, "Thank you, sir." I go, "Thank me? What are you thanking me for?" He goes, "Your guys are fantastic. I love being out there. They're wonderful. You know, I couldn't be more proud." And then he does that same question. "Am I going to be okay?" Well, the truth of the matter is no. And I can't remember to this day what I told him. He had no legs, just below the hips. And I walked through room after room that night. I hope he found solace in whatever I did tell him. But I walked through room after room that night, 5, 6 of them, singles, doubles, triple, or quad. I call it the night of the amputees. But more than that, it became two things occurred to me that night. First, I realized MASH isn't funny. It's not humorous in any kind of way when you live it through. And the second, it's not a really started to hate. And you know, I met my first insurgent shortly thereafter. He was a young 15-year-old boy. My 12-year-old son was bigger than him. I was getting off the helicopter. He was getting on. He was being escorted. He'd been shot in the head, bloody rag. I don't know how he's walking around, blue man dress, and he's scared. He's looking at me. But as I looked at this young man, I realized I didn't care. One way or another, it simply didn't matter to me. And I didn't like what I was becoming. Well, July becomes August. I'm on the flight line up in Jalalabad. It's the same flight line that bin Laden raids launched off of. And I watch it bring the remains of 4 after a suicide bombing. I'll never forget the 1,000 that stood there, you know, just silently as they go by. We send 5 more home between August, September, and October that are wounded, shot, blown up. I send 4 more home dead, blown up. November, another goes home, double amputee. December, I'm not doing very well. I'm sick, I'm hurt, I can't basically function. I'm sleeping on about 2 hours of sleep a night, if that. There's nothing I did, nothing. Didn't matter how hard you try, you just can't figure out a way to quit sending guys home without their arms and legs. Tell you there's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter what you try, it just keeps going. Well, I get the call to go to the hospital one more time, and just like all the others, it's late at night, it's quiet. You get down to the hospital, you walk in, hardly anybody there, you walk into the ER just like all the other times, in the ICU, and you stand in the bed just like all the other times. And there's a man laying in the bed. Doctor walks in, looks at me and says, "Not you guys again." I still hear that sometimes, "Not you guys again." I look at him and said, "How is he?" "It's been degloved." Don't understand that medical term. I said, "Well, let me explain. It's like when you put your hands in a glove on a hot summer day and you turn it out, it's one of these little leather gloves and it flips inside out. And you, basically it turns in and you've got lint and sweat and everything." I go, "Uh-huh." He goes, "Well, it's like that, except when we took his pants off, his legs come with him." I remember looking at the doc and I said, "Will he live?" Direct quote, "No, Colonel, will not." And ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, on a moment like that, there was absolutely nothing you can say. You just stand there. But it was right about then, I started to hear, "Sir, sir, sir." And I look over to the left corner of the room and there's a man standing there. I'm 6'4" in boots. He's bigger than I am, Special Forces captain. He had been there when it came from together, as we say. And he's looking at me and he's crying. And he's got a cell phone in his right hand and he's holding it out and he's doing this. And, "Sir, what do I do?" On the other end of that phone is that young man's father. And for the next 5 or 10 minutes or whatever seemed like forever, he begs and he pleads and he hopes and he cries that somehow, some way, we keep that young man alive. Long enough that we can get to Landstuhl, Germany, where him and his wife, that man's mother and father, can be by his side when they turn the machines off so they can say goodbye. It was a really hard night. You know? Tonight I started to crack. Well, I walked back to my room. You know, it's dark, it's quiet. Walked out of my room, walked over to where I sat, into my office, locked the door, sat down behind my desk, started to cry, took my pistol out, laid it on the desk. And I'll tell you, there's a moment in time when you realize you're dangerously close to a line that if you want to step over it, the damn decision is irrevocable. I've had 4 friends make that such of a decision, and I understand it now. You know, I kept looking at it, and I picked the phone up, and fortunately to this day, I wonder, sometimes it scares me what would have happened if the individual on the other end of the line wasn't there, but they were. And they helped me slowly get a hold of myself far enough that I could push back away from that line, and I'm here today. I'll tell you, most people who make that decision to cross that line, they do it for a couple reasons, and it's maybe you're searching for light, maybe you're searching for peace, whatever it may be, but the truth of the matter is what you're really looking for is you just want to quit feeling like you do, just for a little while. But it's not easy. Well, I got back from that line that day, far enough, so I could get a hold of it. Gathered myself up, we left, came back, redeployed, all the things that go with that. Came home, turned down brigade command, said I can't keep doing this, I'm kind of way out there on the edge. I was lost, as somewhat of in a shell. The next 3 or 4 years became a blur. You know, I moved on twice, went to an academic school, spent a year researching, but the dreams started to come. The panic attacks started to come, and I knew I was in trouble. Edward Tick speaks of a book. He wrote this book right here, and I'm going to tell you, if you get a chance to read it, it's worth your time. It's fantastic. It's called War in the Soul. And he talks about the soul as the centerpiece of a being and what we are. And the issue is, if you will read back into previous cultures and civilizations, you're going to notice they talk about warriors and the soul wound. That oftentimes if you have a soul wound or damage the soul, it is far more problematic and it can be more destructive than the actual physical wound. Well, there's a lot of truth to that, and I will tell you, there's a lot of truth to that. When you go seek help, behavioral health, I will tell you by and large what you're going to receive instead of, even though there's an enormous amount of literature out there that supports nature, trails, alternative methods to treat PTSD and mild and moderate depressions, you're going to get that question right there. Most of these pictures I took, all of these pictures I took at one time or another on the Arizona Trail. That's Mills Ridge, coming off the ridge line. Early, I was lost and I'd missed it by 3 miles. It was kind of a bad day, but I took that coming up there. But you're going to get, will you take medication? Case in point, in my deal, I was talking to a counselor when she found out I was going to walk the Arizona Trail. The first question became adversarial. It was, direct quote, where are your guns? Are you going to kill yourself? And which meds can you take? And I pushed him. I said, I'm not going to do this. I said, I knew we were in trouble. There is a stigma too, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you, if you seek behavioral health, and I don't care your rank in the military, it can be crucial. It'll end your career. I've had a senior lieutenant colonel sob in my arms and tell me I was either drunk or stoned for the last 3 years. I've had senior non-commissioned officers tell me they were directly ordered to take the meds. Doesn't matter. I show you this slide because initially, at first, I had a lot of citations on it and I realized you couldn't read it anyway. So I talked about it. I could show you slide after slide. I spent a year researching it, of the benefits of outdoors and nature on behavioral health. I could show you slide after slide of the negative effects of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors and antidepressants and antipsychotics, but the truth is, you all know this because you're sitting here. So, I was looking for a different way. And one day I cycle quite a bit. I got an email from a friend, and it actually was a Facebook post. I know I'm not on it much. He goes, hey Mike, don't you cycle long distance? I said, yeah, I do. And I looked at this, and it was this group called Warrior Expeditions, never heard of it. Started doing a little bit of reading and said it was long distance expeditions, either bike, hike, or paddle, for therapeutic effects and to treat PTSD. I said, oh, I'm definitely interested in that. I had 2 days. I thought it was, I don't know, I think sometimes somebody's looking out after me. And I submitted the paperwork. I didn't think I had much of a chance. I get an email that says, hey, we'd like to interview you. Did the interview, and then I got the email that says, sorry, but no. I said, okay. But 3 weeks later, I opened up another email that said, we have an opening in our Warrior Hike Arizona Trail program, and since you were the top of our alternate list, here is your acceptance notification. Well, that changed my life. This picture is of Earl Schaffner, which the concept is based on the first individual who in 1948 told a combat buddy of his he was going to walk off the war. What he done? So he went down to the southern terminus, and 4.5 months later, he stepped on the northern terminus. Well, Sean Gobin, former Marine captain, and you notice I say former, not ex, because there are no ex-Marines. I've been told that one eloquently about 3 or 4 times now. Anyway, he had the same type of effect in 2012. And he went down there and he walked, said it took him 4.5, 5 months. But when he finished, he started to realize the therapeutic effects of what this trail and long-distance hiking can do. Because in effect, what it does is it does 3 things. It allows you, first, time to decompress. If you read about veterans in World War II, you're going to notice they came back on boats 30, 45 days. They had the time to sit and talk about it before they jumped right into society. Well, the trail will do that for you. The second, as well, is it allows you to spend time with other veterans and share your experiences. Every one of these expeditions hike, you start out as a group. It could be as small as 2, as in my case, and it could be also as large as 8 or 9. You may not finish together, but you do start out together. But the third one, and the most important one for me, is it allows you to realize that you're going to come back and that you can integrate with society and that people are wonderful. Okay? That was the biggest thing. Well, on May 28th, or on March 28th, Ray Duncan and I stepped on the trail. You're going to notice a couple of pictures. One in the very lower right. I was coming into Roosevelt Lake on a brutally hot day. I remember it, and I wanted a beer. It's all I wanted. And I didn't realize I misjudged it. It's about 3 o'clock. Well, I missed the closing of the marina by 6 minutes. So I'm dejected. I'm walking back up the ramp, and I hear the go-kart come up behind me. I turn around, there's a woman there, and she looks at me and goes, what's going on? I tell her, she goes, want a beer? I got keys. Yeah, I want a beer. She just turns around and we drive back down there. It was the best Dos Equis I've ever had. And Sylvia, I know you're not in here, but you're great. The other picture's Ray and I standing in the right corner, and you'll notice if you look at that close, and it's hard to see, there's two things about me standing there. First off, I'm in a lot of pain. My face looks somewhat dejected and angry. The second, I'm wearing a pair of Crocs. Now, I just walked 27 miles in Crocs. You know, he goes, why would you do that? Well, you know, as you through hike, you get a trail name. Well, my trail name is Bloody Feet. All right? Now, the reason I say that is John Wayne goes, pick the right shoes, Pilgrim. I didn't. All right? And after I got into twin tanks, and I said, that's enough, and I threw those things away. Now, I've done a little bit of informal study. I was paying attention to the through hikers and the shoes they're wearing, and if you talk to me offline, I'll tell you about that. But I finally got to Tucson, and we switched, and that stuff was a disaster. And that nice trail angel showed up with a first aid kit. I couldn't believe it at Twin Tanks, and it kind of saved my hike. Well, by saving that hike, it brought me to 57 days on the Arizona Trail. And those 57 days were truly astounding, ladies and gentlemen. I will tell you, it's walking through the desert and Black Hills and Tiger Mine and the Gila and Alamo Canyon where this picture is shot. I took it one morning, got up early, 6 mountain ranges and the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon's easy. You walk those 6 mountain ranges, Grand Canyon's easy. You can walk right up that thing. It's not a problem. Mogollon Rim, Kaibab, you know, coyotes. It's amazing how they howl at night. And the hawks, how they fly. Oh my gosh, what an amazing day. Wild horses that run all over the Kaibab. And I've had herds of elk run in front of me, 200 strong. The ground rumbles. It really does. It's breathtaking. Incredible people, incredible vistas. And many of those people I now call friends. I've been asked, what were your major concerns? Well, you could probably guess. First concern, easy, it's water. Water weighs 2 pounds a liter. Your calculation, I'll tell you, weighs 2 pounds a liter, okay, when you figure out what you're going to carry. And I carried routinely 5 to 7. Now, I've been told, when you do the math by a lot of my buddies who walk these other hikes, oh, I only carry 2 liters. If you carry 2 liters a year, you're going to die. I want to make sure I'm in front of you so I don't deal with your body, okay? And you don't have to do that. I actually told somebody that. It was good. He got kind of angry about it. I said, you do what you want. I'm going to get in front of you, all right? Drink all of this stuff right here, and it's yeah, no problem. In those 5 hours, I will tell you, at Ribbon Falls, that is a beautiful 5 hours of my life. I just sat there and soaked up there, had lunch, and yeah, that was a good place to take a shower too. I'll be honest. We'll talk about that in just a minute. I've been asked questions. Everybody says, what kind of questions you get? Well, let me tell you, I thought about that, and I got 4 of them that I kind of, you gel down together and you start thinking about what the questions are. And the first one is you. What do you do at night for entertainment? Seriously? I said, I walk 12 to 13 hours a day carrying a 25 to 30 pound pack. I go to sleep. And I'll be honest, if you got Sprint as a carrier, you don't have service anyway, so it don't matter. Second one, have you seen X, Y, or Z? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I've seen them all. Gila monster, check. Rattlesnakes, check. I talked to Craig. Those things are irritating. Mojaves down in Rivas, they're downright irritating. Little Napoleon complex on those things. I've territorial bees. I've got great stories about bees and waters and cat holes if you catch me offline. They're irritating. Had a confrontation with a javelina that was pretty good. The territorial cows, do not put your tent in a superhighway where the cows go to water at night. It is not a good experience. It takes once. You'll learn that. The bees. Did I mention bees? Yeah. Anyway, seen it pretty much all. But I'll tell you, I was filling up at water at a day, and it was hot, and I run calculations, and I was getting close, and it was a bad day. Well, I finally get to where the water is, and I'm filtering it. And I said, I glanced at my bag, and something slimy slides by my bag. And I didn't know, and like the movie Prometheus, did you know the giant Sonoran centipede? That thing's as long as my foot and as thick as my thumb, and I have no idea why I had a camera in my hand, but I took that picture, and then it was game on. That thing wanted it in my bag, I didn't want it in my bag, and that thing probably creeped me out more than anything I saw the whole time. I got a lot of, hey, are you afraid you're going to carry a gun? Well, you know, my 15-year-old will tell you ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. Okay, and a gun and 2 magazines is about 5 pounds. And there is no way I'm carrying 5 pounds of dead weight, okay? First off. Second off, no, I never did. There's no issues. I mean, there's so many wonderful people there. If you run into day hikers, most of them are armed anyway. It doesn't matter when law enforcement's out there. I mean, no, I didn't need a gun. But the biggest question I got, a lot of it, and people really had a hard time with this, was, I'll come back to that. Here's the third question. Like the Nickelback, you know, want to be a rock star? I became a celebrity. I had no idea why I got, can I take your picture? Can I take your picture? Over and over and over. I said, sure, I reek, I'm sweaty, I don't care. Taking it on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. If I'd have charged money for that, it'd have been great. I have no idea. That's Mount Lemmon coming over the top. But the biggest question I got that everybody had a hard time with was, are you alone? Couldn't wrap their heads around it. And after Ray and I separated about 120 miles, are you alone? Yes. You're all alone. Yeah, that's what that means. Yeah, I'm alone. Okay? Well, what happens if X, Y, or Z occurs? Well, I'll fix X, Y, or Z. I'll deal with it. Are you alone? Could not get their heads wrapped around, am I alone? Well, I will tell you honestly, the answer to that question is no, you're not. Because the people on the trail are amazing. It's like angels reside among us. And there's a couple here I've talked to. I could show you slide after slide of people that have helped. Some of you know Serena Defoe in the top right corner. That man in the very far right I'm standing there with, he's an EOD classmate of mine from 21 years ago. But I'll tell you, the guy in the very left, I'm walking outside of Fountain Hills and I'm coming in and I was going to take a 0 day and I look up and the man's coming next to me. He goes, hi, Mike. Now, I graduated in Duchesne High School in Duchesne, Utah, which is a small little town in central Utah 40 years ago, 39 years ago. That's a senior class president. I hadn't seen him in 39 years, and you walk up and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. No idea where it came from. And then that's the folks down in Tucson, and Sean and I down with folks down in Sonoyta. In this picture, the most interesting man on the Arizona Trail photo. This one, hey, you know, the woman standing on the very far right there, her trail name is Drop Bear, and she's from Melbourne, Australia. And I crossed paths with her probably 30 times on the trail, and I only walked probably 3 miles. It was almost creepy and comical the way it was working. We just kept crossing paths, to include once in a Tucson grocery store. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, I came in to that pub and brewery in Pine, and I come out of the Mattishells. That is a wicked mountain range, by the way. Whoever trail steward is here, and I'm not doing it again. Anyway, I came in out of the Mattishells, and I was hungry, and I walked in and I said, you guys got something to eat out here, Mike? And I walked around the corner, and she's sitting there. And we started talking, and I really felt for the patrons, because even though Phyllis is, well, I was talking to Leslie, and they're saying that women don't smell as bad as men. Yeah, they do. And we both agreed, okay, it was bad. And the poor people in the restaurant are just smiling at us. They're not saying a word. We're there for an hour and a half. But then I told her I wasn't sure where I was going to camp. She goes, I got this idea for you. She said, this guy up here's got a place, so I'm sure you can throw your tent up there too. So next thing you know, I'm in a pickup like it's 1970. We're riding up to the vineyards, Trident Vineyards. Let's throw your tent there. You want a shower? I go, yeah, 5 days. I want a shower. Anyway, and I walk out of the shower, and when I come out of it, there's a robe and a glass of wine and flip-flops. So I'm standing outside doing that, and somebody took a picture, and boy, I got all kinds of comments on this. And no, I didn't carry a 5-pound robe all the way across the Arizona Trail. But it turned out pretty good. That was a very, very funny day. Ray's a good guy. And then, well, you mentioned some of this, the duck. Let me explain about that duck, why that's so important. That's up near Happy Jack. Every time I went on combat patrol in Afghanistan in those 12 months I was there, I came back, there'd be a duck on my desk. I had no idea what was going on until I realized later one of my soldiers had a box of them and they were screwing around with the colonel's head. It was kind of funny. But as I walked up on one of those gates that we talked about a little bit earlier, that thing's wired to the gate. But on the back of it, in a small black magic marker, is written the words, "Hi, Mike." And I'm telling you, I stopped and looked at that and went, what in the world? It became almost, brought a tear to my eye. I stopped, well, I got that duck, it's in my Jeep. But me and the duck go way back. And at Gooseberry Lake, whoever put dark chocolate almond biscotti in there. If you're sitting in here, thank you, because I love dark chocolate almond biscotti. I was in there too, Trail Magic. Ladies and gentlemen, I have 2 slides left. And I'm going to talk about this one because this is kind of where it all came together. This is taken up Telephone Hill, Passage 41, okay? That's where the warm fire in 2006 pretty much incinerated the Ponderosa pines that are up there. And you can see it. It is devastation. You walk through there, but what you will also notice and why it became so emotional to me is even though the devastation is profound, you'll see life. And you see life breaking out of the crust of the ground, pushing through that devastation, and it's overwhelming. I mean, I became overcome with emotion several times up there, and I had to just stop and look at it because it was like a chrysalis of new life. And I started to realize that this was me too. As I'm walking on the trail, that this would provide me a chrysalis of a new life, and that I could let go of a lot of the things that I've been struggling with. And it's where also a very good friend of mine told me once something that really pertained to the trail, and he's done several. He said, Mike, the trail's going to give you what you need, but maybe not what you want. It was right there. I got that. I completely understand it now, and it took on Passage 41 so I understood it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, here's the other thing they taught me. All that baggage we carry, and we do, we drag it around from wherever we're going and whatever our life experiences are, and good, bad, whatever. But I also started to realize what this trail said, and what it meant was, you can't carry that stuff on your back or in your heart. It's really not worth very much. The trail will teach you that too. And so it was that I came to travel upon a path that was thorned and narrow. Another place, another grace would save me. The Arizona Trail is an incredible testament to choice, to life, finding a way no matter what the difficulties are. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, I'm glad I walked the journey. I'll always remember how breathtaking the sight, how powerful the moments, and how solemn the message. Because the reason for that message is it allowed me to find that place and to start to repair that sinner and whatever you want to call it, that soul wound, and it gave me an opportunity. And I want to say thank you for your time today.
There's the last slide there.